Why do you keep sabotaging the very things that you pray for? Good evening, everyone. My name is Coach Cecily. Welcome back to another captivating conversation with your girl. So, last week we established that it's the vertical relationship, the one that we have with God, that is foundational to relational intelligence. It is what determines our being, which empowers our doing, which leads to what we have. But here's the uncomfortable truth: we can pray powerful, wall shaking prayers and still have a resilience leak. A resilience leak. That leak is often attributed to an unhealed part of ourselves, to an unhealed inner child. Healing your inner child, it's more than therapy. It's therapy. It's sessions with God. It's time in His Word. It's all of that. But it's also spiritual accountability. It's spiritual accountability. That scared, ashamed, judged part of you and of me, yeah, that is the version of us. That little one is actually running the show behind the scenes. That little one is begging, demanding to be brought into God's light so that he or she can be healed. That little one needs to experience the perfect love of God. The Bible says that God's perfect love drives out, casts out fear. Therefore, if you want true resilience, if you want your bounce back game to be strong and authentic, you have a non negotiable responsibility or duty to nurture your inner self, to get that little one within you healed. Yeah. Here's what I want you to do: I want you to start seeing every emotional overreaction as a message, a DM from that little version of you and of me. And he or she is saying, I need God here. I need God right here. So here's my question for you, because you know I want to engage you. I don't get on here just to have a monologue. I want to know. And I want you to drop a number in the chat that reflects how often your inner child, that little version of you, is dictating your adult behavior. So, number one, drop it in the chat. Coach Cecily, I have done the work. I'm healed. I feel grounded. I feel whole. Or on the other end of the spectrum, drop a number five in the chat where you're like, yeah, my little one, she's demanding to be heard, to be loved, to be embraced. So I have to drop a number five in the chat. My emotional reactions offer exceed the problem. Yeah, drop a number in the chat. That number is going to reveal how scared, how ashamed the little version of you and me is still, is still. Yeah, how scared, how ashamed, how unhealed that version of ourselves is. And then how much that version of ourselves is still, if we were to be honest, running the show. Drop it in the chat. But before we go any further, have we met? My name is Coach Cecily, and I'm a bounce back coach. I'm a resilience coach. And it is my greatest life's pleasure to be able to help as many women as possible to be able to bounce back from a setback so you can get back your God given impact, influence, and income. How do I do that? I do that in a number of ways. I'm a literary midwife. I help people to uncover their pain so they can repurpose it. Yeah. I also come on here 7:30 p.m. each week, mostly Eastern Standard Time, and I'm usually with dope guests. And y'all, my guest tonight, she's dope. She's amazing. She's anointed. But we come on here so as to equip you in the area of mindsets, skill sets, and toolkits so that you guessed it. You can be, do, and have all that God has created for you to be, do, and have. So last week, we established that our vertical relationship with God is foundational to relational intelligence. It's the be that grounds the doing, right? But what happens when the foundation is secure, but the basement is flooded? The basement is flooded with old pain. The basement is flooded with unresolved issues, often from the past. The basement has nothing but hurts, habits, and hangups that we have refused to address. What do you do when your foundation with God? Oh, you go to church. You sing in the choir. Yes, you do. You serve in ministry and you tithe. The foundation is secure, but the basement needs some attention. And so that's what we're on here tonight talking about. So here's what I want you to know. And you may already know it, but may this serve as a gentle reminder from your Savior. Your trauma is not your identity. It is not. But your healing is your responsibility. It is the area that you are accountable for, that I am accountable for. Yeah. So let's connect this to the be, do, have framework, right? Most of us try to do the healing work. Okay. We try to do it hoping to have peace, but it all falls apart because the be component, our identity, is still in need of healing. It's still fractured. Okay. So when you were a child, let's say, that wounded part of you adopted an identity based on something that happened. That wounded child, my wounded child, speaking personally, adopted a message that said, I am unworthy of friends, true friends. I am a failure. And that inner belief was what we dapped up, came into agreement with it, and it became our truth. And that truth that we came into agreement with, which was a lie from the very beginning, from the pit of hell, is what is still actively managing our adult lives. So God has already declared who you be. You be chosen. You be loved. You be redeemed. You be whole. His word declares it. Therefore, our inner child, the healing of our inner child is the process of shutting down that lie, that false sense of self, that false identity, so that the truth of who God says that we be can finally take over and have dominion. You are not responsible for what happened, particularly when you were a child, but you are accountable for your healing. Yeah. And so tonight, I have the perfect person to inform us about this. This woman practically showed me how to do this. She is a certified transformational coach. She is an expert in the area of healing the inner child, of doing, of helping you to do a deep soul work. Y'all, I'm talking about what I have experienced. Okay. She did it for me. She is a woman who knows firsthand how unhealthy cycles of shame and self hatred can sabotage our lives, especially when facing professional setbacks. She experienced some of these setbacks in the banking world recently, and she is here to prove that her journey and well, her journey is her proof, right? And her foundation is her faith. Her journey is her proof, and her foundation is her faith. Y'all, I want you to help me to welcome to the stage my girl. She is also one of my co authors on the book that talks about how transformative a name is, the transformative power of a name. Welcome to the stage, the brilliant, the anointed Coach Brittani Wegner. Come on and join me, Coach Brittany.
Hello, hello.
Up. You look gorgeous. You know, I'm always happy to see you.
Right back at you. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited about this. This has been a long time coming. A
Yes.
long time coming. And
Yes.
I can't even I have so much to say, but I just want to introduce you right now. I want to give you your flowers and read your bio. Is that all
Hmm.
right? All
Absolutely.
right, so Coach Brittani Wegner is a certified transformational coach. I know because she came through a coaching program with me. So I
Yes.
can validate her credentials, at least in that area. She is passionate about leading others to freedom through inner healing and connecting with their true self. She does this by helping people break free from unhealthy cycles and patterns in their soul so they can live their life filled with peace, joy, and love. Coach Brittany's hunger to share this work with others is due to her own journey of inner healing, where God
Mhm.
helped her break free from unhealthy cycles and patterns of shame, judgment, and self hatred. Coach Brittany believes that it is because of her firm foundation in her faith that she is able to share the fruits of her own journey with us. Y'all,
Amen.
this is my girl, and y'all, I can't wait for the world to just really experience the anointing on your life and the healing powers behind your ministry. And I have to tell the
Hmm.
people before we get into it, Britt, how I even found out about all the oil on you. Yes, you know, God led me to ask you to be a part of my visionary authoring program, and I was just so grateful when you said yes, and we took that journey, right? And just, you
Yes.
know, deciding which name we were going to come out of agreement with and which name we were going to fully embrace because it was the name that God had for us. It was the identity that He had for us the entire time. But it was
Hmm.
the day when you reached out to me and let me know that God had placed me on your heart. And you invited me into a Zoom room with you that honestly, I was like, you know what? I just probably need a nap. Great. Thank you, but yeah, maybe later. But something told me, you know what? Let me just see what is on her heart. Let me hear what God might have to say to me through her. I was not ready for the journey, the healing journey that you
Hmm.
took me on, that you invited me into. I'm just going to say it. I was not ready, but by the end of that call, with my lashes somewhere up here and down here, because just of all of the waterworks, I mean, I was like, wow. I'm just so grateful for our connection, our
Yeah.
sisterhood. We are forever bonded not just through Christ, because we are both sisters in Christ, but
Yeah.
because we now have written a book together. So
Amen.
that is part of our shared legacy. It's what we will
Yes.
leave behind. But oh my gosh, like I'm just so I'm just so excited. So yeah,
Yeah.
before we jump right in, is there anything that you want to say? Because I just got a lot to say.
Yeah, well, I mean, the biggest thing is that's what it's like with God, right? When He shows up, like it's unexpected, and He does the healing work, and so it's amazing when it's just like I wasn't expecting this, but God put you on my heart, and here we go. The Lord leads.
Oh my gosh, the Lord leads, but you
hmm
followed, you
hmm
obeyed his leading. And because you did, my life was changed. I experienced a measure of healing that I needed, that I might not have experienced. And that is why I have been chasing you to get you on my live, and that is why, and we'll talk about it a little bit more at the end. We have partnered together. God, I just believe that God has something for you and I to do in this
Yeah.
season. And so, yeah, just super
Amen.
grateful for you. But Britt, let me just start by asking you these questions, if I may.
Yeah.
Um, can I jump right into it?
Sure. I'd love
Okay. So,
it.
having navigated corporate layoffs and now leading healing work, right?
hmm
How does the mindset of honoring your inner child fundamentally shift the meaning of resilience? How does the mindset of honoring your inner child fundamentally shift the meaning of resilience for you?
Yeah. I mean, that's a loaded question, but ultimately it's fascinating because when we think of resilience in the corporate world, it's like striving. It's you're forging ahead, you're in trials and tribulations, but the end goals are productivity, you're meant to perform. It's often measured, it's often tracked. But when we talk about inner healing and healing of our own wounds, honoring our inner child, that looks different. That looks very different. And it's actually a willingness to instead pause and rest. I mean, you said it so perfectly at the beginning. These little pings, these little triggers, these little pain points come up, and they're messengers. That's really what they are. And it's a messenger saying, hey, there's a need for a pause here on this. And oftentimes we forget that and we bypass it. We use the corporate world's motto, right, of forging ahead and just pushing through, to get to the end result. And that's not the best way when it comes to resilience for our own inner healing.
Mm. So well said. Now, does it move us from the corporate goal of bouncing back quickly, right? Because I forgot it was a watch company, take a licking and keep on ticking. I don't remember. Was that
Yeah, I
Timex
think
or
so.
right? That was a watch. I mean, and it's crazy how it like became our mantra, like all of humanity,
Right.
certainly here in the US, take a licking and keep on ticking. So, does um um, does the shift move us from the corporate goal of bouncing back quickly to the spiritual accountability of healing forward, in your opinion?
So, yeah, I mean, it does, but we also have to give grace because it looks different, right? We're so familiar with the corporate world of how we move forward in resilience, and the kingdom's upside down, right? The ways of the world are completely different for the ways of the kingdom. And so when we're talking about healing with the Lord, it's going to look completely opposite of what it looks like in the world. And the world says you do, right? But the kingdom is like, we're also about rest. The kingdom has a strong point about rest, and there's healing in rest. God even rested. And so it's a key point to make sure that's something that we need to make sure we're adding in, to not just our work week, but when we're talking about this specifically for our inner child, those messengers are a point to rest and rest on it and heal through it.
I love that. And not just cover it up with
Yeah.
busyness. I mean, I remember there was a time when I thought it was evidence of my loyalty and my commitment to being successful, to working over the weekends at work. And I would go into the office and work until
Mm.
someone said to me, who by the way was also in the office, the irony is, but said to me, do you not have anything else to do?
Mm.
And no one had ever made it seem like being in the office on the weekend meant that my life was out of balance, which it was.
Mm.
So I appreciate how you're attributing, those pings with, opportunities to rest and, or maybe even to pause and acknowledge
Yes.
another side of our lives, the emotional side, the spiritual side. That's also important. But because, there may not, we can't see it always unless we know
Mm.
what to look for. It's easy to just be busy. I mean, I used to be busy with church.
Yeah. Yeah. We
I
can we
mean,
can find ourselves, busy in all sorts of activities, and some look really great, right? Like if you're working really hard in the ways of the world, it's like, well, you're doing a lot. That's great. But really, what's that doing for you and your soul and, and your healing journey? Um, and oftentimes then what we miss is those points like we'll see it, we'll do, and then we'll have a big trigger, right? And then we'll be like, okay, something's off, but we have no idea what because we're so busy sort of accomplishing things that we miss the fact that, hey, there are probably warning signs prior to that, but that trigger is also pointing, a messenger pointing to another pain point that unless we heal, we're going to continue to trigger through. Now, we'll always have triggers. I just also want to make that clear because it's not like we're ever healed of triggers. But, you know, a level 10 trigger can actually be brought down to where we're not triggering as high, right? Because we
mm.
know how to manage it. We've gone back for that younger version and we know how to actually work with that younger version when they're coming up in these instances that remind us of similar things that happened when we were young.
That might have just, something you said might have just freed someone. You just said we're never free of triggers, and that the goal is really to bring it down from maybe a 10 to where it's not disruptive or maybe dishonoring. Did I hear you correctly?
Yes, yes, because we're always going to be triggered. There's always going to be things we go glory to glory, but we're not 100% like Jesus. And until we are, there's always going to be things that we get opportunities to heal. But yeah, we're always going to trigger. And it's just at what level that we're triggering. And the bigger the trigger, the smaller we are. So there's a pain then from a younger version. And we might be really small if it's a really big trigger because we've had that much time to accumulate pain on top of it.
Wow. So that might have just freed someone struggling with the spirit of perfectionism,
Mm,
thinking that they got to be perfect just to earn God's love. You know,
yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
Thank you. I think I just got free. Listen. All right,
And
so I
that's what the
want,
enemy would love. He'd love for you to shame yourself and be like, oh, I'm a horrible person, all these things. And really, we're just partnering even more on top of with the enemy, on top of what already is there, when really it's actually just a messenger.
wow. The trigger is really just a messenger,
Mhm.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to get anything wrong because I just think that what you're sharing is so needed in the world today. So needed. And if I'm wrong, and I know I'm not wrong, but if I am wrong, this was just for me. So people can listen in on my healing session. But I want to bring this a little bit closer to your front door.
Yeah.
Your journey involved breaking free from shame and self-hatred, which thrives in isolation.
Yes, it does.
So, talk about that to whatever degree you feel comfortable. And then my question is, what foundational mindset should a person adopt about their own vulnerability to allow a healing community into their inner world,
Yeah.
so that they can see it as a strength rather than a liability. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot there, a lot to unpack. My own story of shame and self-hatred is really just a lot of stuffing. Like, I didn't have much tools for emotional healing. I didn't really understand. I was taught at a young age, if you have big emotions, you get sent to your room, you solve them by yourself, and then when you're a normal human being, you can come out and then, interact with the rest of the family. And so it taught me a lot of shame about having emotions. So I learned at a young age, like emotions are bad. You shouldn't feel. It's not normal to feel. So I always thought there was something wrong with me. So I started to really hate myself because here I had these emotions, right? These things that we weren't supposed to have, which is not true, obviously. But as a young kid, that's all I knew. And so I started to really just hate the way I operated because I had all these emotions and they were all stuffed and everything was stuffed. And as we know, when things are stuffed, it comes out sideways, right? It's not that it's just under the rug and nothing happens to them. They come out in these weird sideways ways, and that's what was happening. So there are a lot of things that, transpired through the holding in my body, even of shame and self-hatred and what it did to my body, of just holding all of that in. But the biggest change into kind of moving into breaking free of that, honestly, is self-compassion.
Mm.
And that has to be at the center of it all. We have to have compassion for our journeys and our stories. And we
Wow.
can't look back at it with shame. Because if we do,
Mm.
then we're partnering with the enemy. And God's not surprised by our story. He's not surprised by our parents. He's not surprised by the people that came in and out of our lives. He's not surprised by it. And He doesn't look at it with shame. So we have to stop looking at it with shame.
When you
And we
say it, when you talk about it, it just sounds so like filled with compassion.
Mm.
I just wish, I could just like put you in a little container and like put you in my ear, like maybe make a little, thing for my ear, device for my ear, and just have you talking to me, like that.
Yeah.
Because when one has developed a habit, a pattern of talking to themselves, sideways, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we would
Mm-hmm.
never let somebody come and say something sideways. That's, I don't know, in your community if you all say that, but in my community, oh, she came at me sideways. But the way you just
Uh-huh.
explain that, when we overstuff something, stuff is going to start coming out of is going to start coming out sideways. So
Sideways,
when I
yeah.
talk to myself sideways,
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
I love how you said that's an opportunity to stop and allow compassion.
Yes.
Um,
And when we look at even, I mean, going back through the story of time, right? We look in Genesis, shame happened to Adam and Eve. They covered themselves up. That shame came in. And so shame is going to be a block, a hindering thing if we're operating in shame. We're not going to be able to get fully healed if we have shame. And so we have to be able to let the shame go and actually have self-compassion instead. And that's also what's going to allow us to be fully vulnerable. Because I think, too, like another thing I want to say is there's a difference between transparency and vulnerability. And the way
mm,
I like to say it is transparency is sharing from your head, where vulnerability is actually sharing from your heart. Because
mm,
transparency is giving you facts. Like I can give you all these facts, but I'm not super connected to it. There's not any emotion. These are just factual things. But if I'm vulnerable, you're getting a real raw, you're getting the emotion tied into it, into my story and journey. And that's what we need to do when we talk about a healthy community. It's being able to be truly vulnerable because it's only in that place that you will be truly seen.
mm.
Because if you're transparent and you're logically providing information, there's parts of you that's still hidden. And so you're still not getting fully seen in your pain. You're only being seen at the parts that you're letting someone see you.
Hmm. So, what's the single most important thing that someone can do to move from transparency to being vulnerable?
I would look at why because the reason why you're not sharing is probably shame. More than likely, there's shame still present. And so, what is still there in that place of pain that's creating shame that needs to be healed? Because there's something then still in that story, still in that journey that's ready to be healed because it's being covered up with shame.
Mm, wow. Sounds like people need to book a session or two with you. I want to go back because I'm thinking back to the healing session that you led
Yeah.
me through. And I remember, wow, well, I think we had a couple, but um, one that I really remember was centered around my new relationship with
Mm,
my fiance, my now fiance. And I was
yeah.
really afraid to lean into, the whole idea of, just falling in love again, opening up and
Mm,
being vulnerable, right? Because you can't really experience intimacy if you won't allow yourself to be vulnerable, which, sort of incorporates the risk of being hurt.
yes.
So, yeah, and ooh, you had me go back to that little one, as you call
Hmm.
her, and just really give her compassion.
Yeah.
And that was just, and listen to her. And that was
Mm,
just so transformational, so
yeah.
transformational. So yeah, I want to, just thinking back to that session though, what was there a specific skill or practice, that we can learn to accountably check in with our inner child
Hmm.
daily, so that we can proactively parent that part of ourselves instead of just, reacting from that unresolved part of ourselves.
Yeah. I'd say the most common thing that I typically have people start with is heart check-ins. Because in this Western world, we're taught that logic is like most important, right? You go to school, you need to get good grades. It's all about what you're learning. Logic like kind of takes over. And in that process, though, we lose the heart. And scientifically, it's actually been proven while we have, a brain in our heads, we have a brain in our hearts too. And our hearts actually learn, remember, make decisions independently then from our brain. So our hearts remember a story differently than our heads do. And so what happens though is when we're only logic based, we're black and white, we sort of shut down our hearts. And so the pain is still here in our hearts, but yet we've solved it and we still go about our day. So the first thing I typically have people do is heart check-ins, like check in periodically throughout the day and just ask your heart, what are you feeling in this moment? And just listen, because what that's doing is actually developing relationship with you, with your heart, and your heart is kind of like a little child. So we want to approach it like a little child would. We want it to feel safe, and we want it to approach it like we're trying to gain understanding and clarity, and basically rebuild trust and connection with our hearts. So that then our hearts then feel safe enough to actually reveal what they're hanging on to, which is some of that stuff that our head says we solved, but our heart said we didn't.
Now, you just said a whole lot that needs to be unpacked, and I wish there was time, but wow. Do you think that most of us in the world live like separate and apart from our hearts?
I think a
Um,
lot of us do. From many of the sessions that I've held, oftentimes that's a takeaway is some sort of check-in with the heart. And sometimes it's a statement, like I've had people say it's okay not to be okay because they never learned it was okay not to be okay. And so sometimes it's a statement that you're just telling your heart periodically. Sometimes it's check-ins so that you can again develop relationship with your heart and hear what it's actually feeling and sensing. That was a big part of my story because I wasn't ever taught that it was okay to have emotions. And so I had to learn what emotions were, which is kind of funny to say, but I did. And so part of that was actually going like, heart, what are you feeling? And trying to understand that there are a lot more ranges of emotions than what I had growing up, which was happy or sad slash angry.
right, exactly. Exactly. Do they call those non What are those non-primary
Possibly, yeah.
emotions?
You
Non-primary emotions. So I guess the
Oh,
primary
oh,
ones
like
are,
the anger being a secondary emotion, which it is because really what it's masking is ungrieved sadness. So that
hmm,
one they often call a secondary emotion because
hmm.
there's something actually underneath the anger.
Wow.
Hmm.
And then you said that there's a heart inside of our heads. What did you
So
say?
there's nope. So our heads have a brain, but our hearts have a brain as well.
Yeah, our
And
hearts have a brain.
mhm.
I just got a whole visual with that. Our
Yeah.
hearts have a brain. Wow. That I'm gonna move on because I just want to drill down into that. That's so powerful that our heads and our hearts remember a situation very differently.
Hmm.
Wow. Okay. So you help people break unhealthy generational and relational cycles. What is the essential skill set, like a form of community boundary or relational boundary? What would you say is the essential skill set that we have to develop to protect our newly healed inner self from being pulled back into
Yeah.
the old version, into the old toxic systems or way of seeing a situation that caused the wound initially?
Yeah. I'm going to use the same phrase, self-compassion is going to be key, but I want to give kind of an example. So if I use that example I gave earlier where I wasn't allowed to have emotions, so I had to kind of go and go away and then come out when I was okay. That's how I live my life. So in my 20s, it's like if I had emotions, I'd kind of be by myself. I would try to process through them so that I came out and everything was sunshiny and fine, even though I really, didn't process through them. I stuffed them as best as I could. But today, now, when I have big emotions, I give myself permission to feel them. So I'll speak to my heart and I'll be like, I know this is really hard. Like, it's okay not to be okay. And I'll say things like, you're not alone. Because I used to have to go to my room, right, and deal with it by myself. So I'd say, you're not alone. I'm here with you, and you can take as much time as you need to process through this. Because my child self says, I go to my room, so I'm bad, right? When I have emotions, I'm bad. And I need to solve through this as quickly as possible and get out of my room so I can be with everybody else and be normal, right? So, what I'm doing is I'm counteracting that with other statements of compassion to say, it's okay to have emotions. It's okay to not be okay. And you're not alone. I'm with you. And you don't have to rush this process. You can take as much time as you need to go through it. And so I'm counteracting that with true compassion words that say, I'm here with you and we can go through it together. And that's a way that you kind of reparent your heart. So it's a way to sort of walk through this and teach your heart that it can actually go through life, in a different way than what it's been brought up to go through life.
Wow, I love, and it makes it so much more clear when you use, how you were taught to handle or disconnect essentially
Hmm.
from your own emotions. And it made me think about, you use the phrase, this helps us to parent when we offer compassion to our,
Reparent. Hmm.
huh?
Reparent.
To
Yes, we're
reparent.
reparent because we got parented one way, but
Right.
we're going back and reparenting that younger version.
Yes. And so I was thinking, because I teach high school, I was thinking
Yeah.
about how needed this is, for young people today. But they wouldn't be able to connect to the whole notion of parenting,
Hmm.
because they're high schoolers. So is there a different way that that could be framed where, young people could get behind it and see that this is how they would offer compassion,
Yeah.
maybe to parenting that they're currently receiving, but they're not adults yet, so they might not be able to get behind the whole reparenting.
Yeah. I mean, really, when there's kind of a younger version that's stuck, if you will, it's for two reasons. One being pain that didn't get comforted or a need that didn't get met. And so what we're doing is we're going back for those younger versions and we're solving that. Either we're comforting the pain or we're meeting a need. And so it doesn't have to necessarily be reparenting, but it's really going back for you because there was something missing in that moment.
Mm.
You were missing something, right? And so you were missing, comfort, or you were missing, a need being met. And a need could be a physical need, but most of the time it's some kind of emotional need, right? Like, um, I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head. Like, for example, for me, right, when I had big emotions, my emotional need would have been having someone come close to me instead of separate
Mhm.
from me, right?
Mhm.
Like, I need
Mhm.
someone close. So
Yeah.
that's why when I give compassion, I'm like, I'm here with you. I'm going to be close with you. And compassion really is being with. So it's kind of training
Mhm.
yourself to be with in the pain and allowing it to process through.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. All right. I want to ask you about accountability because that's really what this session was to focus on is accountability. And I said at the top that we are accountable. We're not responsible for what happened to us when we were little, for the
Hmm.
way we were parented, but
Hmm.
we are accountable to ourselves, to the way we want to show up in the world, in relationships now for our healing. But accountability requires vulnerability,
Hmm.
which is a scary skill set for many, particularly if there was harm, that had been done and we're stuck now in that particular story. Being vulnerable is like a fate worse than death in some regards. But
Yeah.
what are two specific practical vulnerability skills that you teach your Global Citizens Academy? Is that is that is that an academy that you're with? Or no, maybe not.
No.
But that you teach your clients, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Vulnerability skills that you teach your clients to help them to sort of lower their defenses in order to become more connected.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's helping them see the shame that's there, right? Because you and I talked about at the beginning, where oftentimes there's things that people don't want to share. And that covering of shame is actually, what the enemy wants, right? He wants us to keep a portion of ourselves in darkness, but we need to bring all of that into the light. And anytime there's shame, then there's still a portion that the enemy has access to instill lies or to declare other things that aren't true. And we want to bring all of that into the light. So oftentimes it's like, looking at the story, and if there's things that are being hindered in being truly vulnerable and what that is, okay, well, what is your heart afraid of if it shares this? Oh, it's afraid of rejection. Well, then we go and we figure out, when did rejection first enter in? So there's layers to the process, because oftentimes there's some reason that there's shame there. It could be, like I said, fear of rejection. It could be fear of abandonment. Like for me, when I had big emotions, I was kind of left alone. There could be fear of abandonment there. There's a lot of common things that come into play, but we're really looking to see what's the reason that it's there. Because in a perfect world, if everything's fine, we wouldn't have any hindrances. We'd be completely vulnerable and everything would be okay and there wouldn't be any blocks. But if there is, there's something that's still there that's ready to be healed.
Mm.
And so that's one part, for sure. And the other part really is, the heart check-ins, like I said, because we want to be able to build connection within. And the more we can trust ourselves, the more our hearts are going to be vulnerable with us to then be vulnerable with other people. So it's got to start within, because we love others as we love ourselves. So if
Mm.
we come to love ourselves, love our story, love our journey, see it in compassion and not shame, that makes us a more open vessel to give love and receive love from other people. On top of that, also God. Like we become more full. He's only going to be able to pour in as much as we're allowing him to pour in. Because if we don't see ourselves as valuable or worthy, that's going to be a block between us and him, which was the relationship you talked about at the beginning, that vertical relationship. Like we're going to have a block of what's being poured out from heaven if we are saying, yeah, you can pour it in here, but just not here because I'm not worthy over here. Okay, well then we want to bring healing so that he can pour it into all areas.
Woo! Wow. I just wish the world could listen in on this conversation. I feel like that that you just said, we love others as we love ourselves.
Yeah.
That's a commandment. We are to love others.
Mhm.
Love your neighbor as you love yourself. But if I don't love myself because of, those unresolved hurts, habits, hang-ups that I gained during childhood that went unresolved, ignored, yeah, I'm limited. I'm
Yeah.
limited. Oof, that just connected everything, all the dots,
Aw.
all the dots. And that's where we definitely need his perfect love. You
Yes.
know, I mean, his perfect love. That's where we
Yeah.
need to run to him,
Yeah.
and he's waiting.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep, absolutely.
Amen.
Your work is transformational, Britt. I've
Mm.
I've told you that before. And I'll say it again. So for someone watching tonight who feels a tug on their inner child's pain, they feel a ping, but they're deeply afraid of touching that pain point, that wound. Um, yeah, I just have a final hot seat question for you that I hope will address that. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So, what simple, powerful truth about God's role in inner healing can you give to that person that serves as their permission slip to
Mm.
take the first brave step towards accountability and healing? Do you need me to repeat it?
I mean, I think I got it because ultimately what it boils down to is God's outside of time. And so when we're doing stuff with God, we can heal all areas and He can go back and heal it going forward. He can heal it back, He can heal it forward. And so anytime we're working with God, He's the one, He's the source, the true source of healing. And that's why when we go back for our inner child, I also like to bring Jesus in. And we like to get truths. We like to replace the lies with truths. We like to break down the belief systems that were built around this pain point so the pain happens, and then oftentimes we separate off, and that younger version holds that pain. And then what's built around it is a belief system, some sort of lies. And the enemy uses that to try to build a stronghold around it to say, this is why this is true. He'll use different events, he'll use other things to say, this is why it's proven as true. But when we go back for those younger versions, we go with God, we actually heal, the pain that wasn't comforted, the need that wasn't met, heal that. I also usually have people renounce lies, get rid of the lies, get rid of the belief systems, tear that house down. And that allows that younger version to be reintegrated with us again so that they're no longer feeling alone. We no longer feel super disconnected within. We actually get to work towards wholeness and oneness.
Wow, wow, powerful, filled with compassion, transformational. Coach Brittany, thank you so much
Yeah.
for your transparency, your vulnerability, your expertise. Thank you
Mhm.
so much for bringing your anointing into this space. Your ability to connect with people is just filled with the love of God. And
Mm.
I'm just super excited about what is to come. So, speaking
Thank
about
you.
what is to come, what is next for you? Where can people find you? What's going
Yes.
on?
So I have a couple of different things going right now. One of which you can go to my website and always book an individual one-on-one session with me. I'd love to help you find healing. A lot of people will ask, when's a good time or what's a sign I need help. If you're triggering at a 10, little you need some help. And I'd love to come alongside and help you heal that little one. Outside of that, I'm also a part of a group mentoring program. They do healing for, it's called somatic body work. So, what we do is we actually heal trauma within the body, and trauma within the body is really just pent up energy. So, it releases energy from the body. So, we meet twice a month over a Zoom session over lunch and practice somatic tools to release some of that trauma that's stored up in the body. Because, again, that's a big part of my story. But the other part is the soul healing, which is huge. And I'm getting to do a little bit of partnership with you and hopefully more in the future.
It's coming.
Yes, yes.
So before you go off screen, I do want to tell the people about my relational story mapping
Yes.
just program that I've only offered up to 3 people. I already have 2 people, so I'll be looking for that third person. But I'm super excited that you have said yes to being a part of that, and they'll just have to find out what is to come. But I just believe that the work, the heart work, the
Mhm.
healing, the deep inside out work is so critical. So,
Yeah.
again, thank you so much. It has been an honor to
Yes.
just spend some time with you. I certainly was blessed to have been under the sound of your voice as you just ministered in this very, it's just sweet. It's just
Mm.
so sweet and so healing. And yeah,
Thank you.
I just pray that God would amplify your voice so that, people can find you and get the healing that they need so that they can be, do, and have all that
Yeah.
God created for them to be, do, and have. So, again, thank you
Amen.
so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, Britt, we'll be in touch.
All right, thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
All right, y'all. So, the final key takeaway from tonight is that your spiritual accountability starts with the smallest, most vulnerable part of you. If you want to be resilient, if you want your bounce back game to be strong and authentic, if you want to stop leaking resilience, then you must, I must, we must tend to that wounded part of us, that part of us that is raging, that part of us that is demanding to be heard, to be loved, to be valued. Yeah. The body keeps the score. No matter how busy we become, no matter the things that we have, if that being part of us is still in need, and we can identify those parts by the triggers and the level of the trigger. So if you are finding that there is a particular area where your reaction is greater than the situation or than the harm, then that might be a ping. That might be an area where you need to find a Coach Brittany. Y'all follow her, go to her website that she mentioned. She's amazing. I'm not telling you what I've heard. I'm telling you what I know. So you're what I want you to do. Okay? I want you to take one small step tonight. I want you to go to the mirror and I want you to look yourself in the eye. And I want you to say to your inner child, that little one, I see you. You are worthy. You are loved. And from this point on, I got you. They didn't have you when they should have had you, but I got you. She walked away when she should have stayed, but I got you. He did you wrong, and you didn't deserve that because you were little, but I got you. I got you. Jesus loves you, and he died on the cross for you, just for you, especially you. That's what I want you to do tonight. That's your one small step. I pray that this conversation continues. I want you to drop in the chat after watching this. What's the biggest truth that you heard Coach Brittany drop on here tonight? And she just dropped gems, right? Like, I'm going to have to run this back, okay? What is the biggest truth that she dropped tonight? What landed in your heart that just says, yeah, I needed this. This is what I needed. This is exactly what I needed. Share it in the comments, okay? And so If this session, if this video has blessed you, then please help a sister out. Like it, drop a comment in the chat, and share it with someone. If the framework be, do, have that I opened up with at the top, if that resonates as true, if you need to revisit, I just need for you to like the video, right? Just like it. I need for you to also go to my YouTube channel where you'll be able to catch the entire replay, y'all, and subscribe there. Share it with a friend, right? I'm going to be posting shorts from this. I'm going to be, again, just uploading the entire thing. Help a sister out, okay? If you know somebody who is triggered in a way that is not who they really are, and you want them to experience peace, love, and joy. If you want to really love somebody the way you love yourself, like and subscribe to my YouTube. My YouTube channel is under my entire government name, Cecily Denise Cooper. You can find me there. Go there and support your girl, Coach Cecily. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Continue to bounce back greater. I love y'all.